Again, welcome back to my channel Stoicism. Tell me, every woman with a high body count leaves psychological fingerprints that you can't erase. I'm about to expose even hidden signs that reveal her real intimate history. Patterns so subtle that even she doesn't realize she's showing them. Once you learn these, you'll see the truth about every woman you meet. Before I walk you through these 7 signs, do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments what city are you watching from. It's incredible to see how far our community reaches. And I love connecting with men who are serious about understanding these truths. These patterns are recognizable if you know what to look for. And trust me, you need to stay until the very end because sign number 4 is something that will absolutely blow your mind. It's the most manipulative behavior pattern I've ever witnessed, and it's happening right under your nose without you even realizing it. If you skip ahead, you'll miss the one sign that could save you from years of emotional manipulation. Sign number 1, she's too comfortable with closeness too soon. The first sign is something most men actually mistake for a positive trait. She seems incredibly confident about intimate matters. She talks about physical relationships without the natural shyness or gradual warming up that typical Icarus does. Women who haven't had extensive experience. This isn't about being romantically liberated or confident in her body. This is about the complete absence of natural emotional barriers that should exist early in a relationship. Women who have been with many partners often lose the ability to create emotional boundaries around closeness because those boundaries have been crossed. So many times they no longer exist. She discusses intimate details with a clinical detachment that feels off. She knows too much about psychology. In romantic situations, she's overly familiar with approaches and dynamics that suggest extensive experience. Most concerning, she treats physicalness as a casual topic rather than something sacred or emotional ignic. This comfort level extends beyond just talking. She moves toward physical closeness without the emotional investment that typically accompanies it. There's no build-up, no emotional tension, no sense that this means something special to her. It's mechanical, practiced routine. The psychological reality is that when closeness loses its emotional weight through a repetition with multiple partners, a woman can't easily recover that sense of specialness. Each subsequent relationship becomes less emotionally significant because the physical aspect has been separated from emotional bonding. Most men think this confidence is attractive, but it's actually revealing something much deeper about her past. It's showing you that intimacy has become commonplace rather than meaningful in her life. You'll notice she doesn't blush, doesn't show natural feminine modesty, doesn't have moments of vulnerability around physical closeness. These responses aren't outdated or oppressive. They're natural emotional reactions that protect the bonding process. When they're absent, it signals that the bonding mechanism itself has been damaged through overuse. Sign number 2, emotional walls that never come down. The second sign is perhaps the most telling. She maintains emotional distance even in what should be intimate moments. Women who have been with many partners often develop sophisticated emotional defensive mechanisms that make genuine connection nearly impossible. She can be physically present, engaging in conversation, even participating in relationship practice. But there's always a part of her that remains unreachable. It's as if she's performing intimacy rather than feeling it. This emotional availability isn't shyness or taking time to open up. It's a fundamental ability to let someone in completely. This shows up in how she talks about feelings. Everything remains surface level. She doesn't share deep fears, childhood experiences that shaped her, or vulnerabilities that would create a real emotional intimacy. When pressed for deeper connection, she deflects with humor, changes the subject, or gives responses that sound meaningful but reveal nothing real. She struggles with emotional reciprocity. You share something meaningful about yourself, and her response is appropriate but shallow. She can't match your emotional depth because she's learned to keep those depths protected. This creates a one-sided emotional dynamic, where you're always giving more than you're receiving. If you've ever felt like you're dating someone who's emotionally unavailable, Even when she's physically present, this might be why women who have been with many partners often lose the ability to form the deep emotional bonds that create lasting relationships. The emotional walls extend to how she processes relationship conflicts. Instead of working through problems together, she tends to either shut down completely or end their relationship. She hasn't developed emotional tools for deep relationship maintenance, because her pattern has been to move on rather than work through difficulties. This emotional distance is temporary or something that will improve with time and trust. It's a fundamental shift in how she approaches emotional connection, created through repeated cycles of bonding and separation that have taught her that emotional investment leads to pain. Sign number 3, an unusual number of malafriends. The third sign involves her social circle and how she manages relationships with men. Women who have been with many partners often maintain unusually large networks of male acquaintances, many of whom are former intimate partners or men who are regularly interested in more than friendship. She receives constant messages from different men. Her phone buzzes with attention from multiple male sources throughout the day. When you ask about these men, she dismisses them as just friends, but the frequency and tone of contact suggest otherwise. These aren't casual friendships. They're emotional and attention-based connections. Many of these friends are women she's previously been involved with. She maintains contact with former partners in a way that suggests she keeps her options open. This isn't about being mature and friendly with exes. It's about maintaining a network of validation and potential backup options. She struggles to maintain genuine friendships with women. Her social circle is predominantly male, not because she has masculine interests, but because she's more comfortable with male attention and validation. Female friendships require emotional depth and reciprocity that she may struggle to provide. The psychological pattern here is validation seeking through male attention. Women who have been with many partners often develop an addiction to male approval and interest. They need constant confirmation of their desirability from multiple sources because they've learned to equate male attention with self-worth. And here's what most men don't realize. These friendships are often her backup plans. She maintains emotional and communication connections with multiple men so that if your relationship ends, she has immediate options available. This isn't conscious planning. It's a subconscious safety net created through experience. She has difficulty setting clear boundaries with male attention. Men who are obviously interested in her romantically are allowed to remain in her orbit, receiving mixed signals and encouragement. She enjoys the attention too much to cut off sources of validation even when it's inappropriate for someone in a committed relations. This pattern reveals an inability to fully commit emotionally tuned person. She needs multiple streams of male attention to feel secure, which means she can't invest completely in building something deep with you. Her emotional energy is distributed across many relationships rather than concentrated in one meaningful connection. Sign number 4, she uses closeness as currency. The fourth sign is perhaps the most manipulative. She has learned to use physicalness as a tool to get what she wants rather than as an expression of genuine connection and affection. Women who have been with many partners often develop a transactional relationship with physical connection. They've learned that closeness can be used to gain advantages, resolve conflicts, or manipulate outcomes. This turns something that should be sacred into a calculated strategy. She might withdraw physical affection when she's upset, not because she's not in the mood, but because she's learned it gets results. Conversely, she might initiate closeness when she wants something. A favor, a purchase, forgiveness for something she's done. The timing is too convenient to be coincidental. There's a calculating quality to how she approaches physical relationships. She seems to know exactly when to advance and when to pull back to. Maintain your interest and investment. This isn't natural feminine intuition. It's learned a manipulation through experience with multiple partners. She uses her femininity as power and waste it, feel uncomfortable. Everything becomes about leveraging physical attraction for emotional or material gain. She's learned that her appeal is her most powerful tool for getting what she wants from men. So she weaponizes it. The psychological reality is that when closeness becomes a tool instead of connection, authentic bonding become impossible. She can't separate the strategic use of physical affection from genuine emotional expression because the two have become intertwined through repeated use. She struggles with spontaneous, non-strategic intimacy. Everything feels calculated because it often is. She's lost the ability to simply express affection without considering what she might gain from it. This makes authentic moments of connection rare and precious, but also makes you question whether any intimate is genuine. This pattern creates a relationship dynamic where physical intimacy becomes a negotiation rather than a natural expression of love and attraction. You begin to feel like you are being managed rather than loved, which ultimately destroys trust and emotional safety. Sign number 5. Shen knows exactly how to play men. The 5th sign is her sophisticated understanding male psychology and her ability to manipulate masculine emotions with surgical precision. Women who have been with many partners often develop an almost professional level understanding how to manage and control men. Shen knows exactly what to say to make you feel special, masculine, and needed. But this knowledge feels too practiced, too perfect. Her compliments hit specific psychologic targets that suggest she's learned through experience what works on different types of men. It doesn't feel authentic, it feels strategic. She has an unusual understanding of male insecurities and knows how to exploit them. She can make you feel incredible about yourself one moment and subtly undermine your confidence the next, keeping you emotionally off balance and seeking her validation. This emotional manipulation is sophisticated and learned. Her ability to read male behavior and respond appropriately seems supernatural, but it's actually just experience. She's been through these patterns with enough men that she can predict reactions and adjust her approach accordingly. What seems like perfect compatibility is often just perfect manipulation. She uses feminine energy as a weapon rather than a gift. Everything about how she presents herself, her vulnerability, her admiration, her need for protection feels performed rather than authentic. She's learned that certain feminine behaviors trigger specific masculine responses. The woman who can manipulation a man has learned these skills somewhere, and that somewhere is experience. Multiple relationships have provided her with a psychological laboratory where Ash has tested different approaches and refined her techniques for managing masculine emotions. She has specific strategies for different phases of relationships: how to create initial attraction, how to maintain interest, how to handle conflicts, how to regain control when it slips. These strategies work because they're tested, but they prevent authentic relations development. This level of manipulation creates relationships that feel exciting but hollow. You're responding to carefully crafted stimuli rather than authentic feminine energy. The connection feels intense but lacks genuine depth because it's based on psychological manipulation rather than real compatibility. Sign number 6. Know me about her past. The 6th sign is her complete lack of natural shame or regret about her romantic history. While society tells us shame is negative, a healthy amount of selectivity and emotional protection around intimate experience is actually psychological and healthy. She talks openly about previous partners and experience with it any natural modesty or discretion. This isn't romantic liberation. It's the absence of natural emotional boundaries that typically protect intimate experiences from becoming casual conversation topics. She shows no understanding of why her past might concern a potential long-term partner. When questions about her story arise, she becomes defensive and aggressive, turning the conversation to an attack on your right to have preferences about your partner's background. There's often pride rather than privacy about the number of her previous partners. She might not give you exact numbers, but she makes it clear that she's experienced and sees this as a positive rather than something that might give pause to a man considering a serious relationship. She frames any concern about her past as insecurity, jealousy, or outdated thinking on your part. This defensive strategy prevents honest conversation about how past experience might affect your potential relationships. She can't acknowledge legitimate concerns because she doesn't see them as legitimate. She can't understand why exclusivity or commitment might But important to you because she's never experienced relationships where emotional and physical connection were preserved for one special person. She literally doesn't comprehend what you might be looking for in a committed relations. This creates a fundamental incompatibility values and relationship goals. You're looking for something exclusive and special while she's operating from a framework where intimate experiences are casual and interchangeable. These worldviews cannot be reconciled. Sign number 7, a pattern of short relationships. The 7th and final sign is perhaps the most telling. She has a consistent history of short-term relationships with no long-term commitments or deep partnerships in her background. Her relationship history reads like a series of brief intense connections followed by quick endings. She might describe these as mutual decisions or natural conclusions. The pattern reveals an inability to sustain long-term emotional investment in one person. She has explanations for why each previous relationship ended, but the explanations always center one external factors or incompatibility history, than acknowledging any patterns in her own behavior. She sees herself as victim of circumstances rather than a participant in creating relationship outcomes. There's often overlap between her relationships with new connections beginning before previous ones have completely ended. This isn't coincidence. It's a pattern of emotional and physical transition that prevents the natural healing and growth that should occur between relationships. She struggles with the natural progression from attraction to attachment to deep commitment. Her relationships get stuck in the excitement phase and never develop the deeper emotional infrastructure necessary for lasting partnership. When the initial intensity fades, she moves on rather than building something substantial. If she's never had a relationship longer than 6 months, that's not bad luck. That's a pattern. It reveals fundamental issues with emotional commitment, conflict resolution, and the ability to choose partnership over the excitement of new options. She may express desire for long-term commitment, but her behavior patterns contradict her stated goals. She hasn't developed the emotional tools necessary for sustained partnership. She's never been in situations that required them. This pattern is particularly concerning because it suggests that even if she wants to change, she lacks the experience of how to build and maintain lasting emotional connections. She literally doesn't know how to do long-term relationships because she's never done them successfully. The reality is that experience changes people, and extensive romantic experience changes how women approach closeness, emotional connection, and long-term commitment. These changes aren't always positive for building lasting partnerships, and ignoring them won't make them disappear. You deserve someone who can offer you genuine emotional connection, who values exclusivity, who has the psychological tools for long-term commitment, and who sees your relationship as something special rather than just another experience. Don't settle for someone whose pattern suggests they can't provide what you're looking for. And drop a comment below telling me which sign hit closest to home. Don't tell the whole story. Just write, "I've seen this." Subtly recognizing the pattern is the first step to breaking free from relationship chat. Can't give you what you truly need. Remember, a high-value man deserves a high-value woman who can match his commitment, emotional depth, and relationship goals. Don't compromise your standards for someone whose pace suggests they can't build the future you want.